Weekend warfare. What are we talking about? Sharpening axes.
Weekend warriors.
Oh, okay.
What'd you say? Weekend warfare.
I think I like weekend warfare better.
Look, I need to get motivated.
Yeah, we're talking all about weekend warfare.
I'm into it.
I do this every weekend with my kids, getting them out to sports, get your soccer cleats on, your flag football stuff.
That's right. You got to get them
It's
armored
just
up.
Warfare.
Yeah.
Warfare all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
it's funny you say that because in unpacking a lot of this weekend warrior discussion around exercise, ultimately is what this is about. There's a million definitions of what a weekend warrior is.
Yeah.
So are we talking about somebody who they just concentrate all of their physical activity to 1 or 2 days a week as opposed to evenly distributing it throughout the other 5? So
Not necessarily weekend in that
Yes.
sense, but just really doing it all on a couple of days.
yes.
Okay.
And, and oftentimes I think that the definition that we will roll with are truly those that, confine most of their physical activity to the weekends. That's not when their 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 is taking place.
Right.
And so Saturday and Sunday, they have ample time to do all of the things that they hope to do.
That makes sense.
So back to the original point here. So in looking at self-reported data of the most common barriers to exercise participation, the lack of time consistently sits near the top.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it isn't just this lack of time that prevents people from participating. It is the certain way of thinking that accompanies that often hinders action.
What do you mean?
Well, I only have 1 or 2 days a week during the week with some extra time, and that can't possibly be enough to get me healthier or stronger or whatever the stated goal is. I was in great shape in my early 20s when I had tons of extra time that allowed me to exercise 3, 4, maybe even 5 times a week. I've heard many iterations of this that basically reflect the all or nothing approach. And so truly it is the lack of time that makes it difficult. Plus there's that, well, I can only do it at this time anyway, so I might as well do something else.
Right.
This isn't even going to matter.
Yeah.
This 30 minutes that I have right now, this hour, it's not going to do anything in the grand scheme.
Right.
That is a complex problem, I think, to unpack. And I think in some of the remote coaching that I've done, I've heard this time and time again. And I think part of my early failures in working with people were not being malleable enough with somebody's schedule to say that, hey, if Saturday and Sunday or Sunday and Monday or Friday and Saturday, if those literally are the only 1 or 2 days that you can give to physical activity in a dedicated, structured manner, that's perfect. We'll work with that. Beforehand, I was thinking in this optimization mentality.
Sure.
Where in a perfect world, we evenly distribute all this volume, all this exercise throughout the course of the week so that you can recover really well and you can hit all these different patterns.
Right.
And you build the best physical version of yourself and you check all these boxes. And look, that's realistic for me because that's also my hobby at this point and amongst other factors. But for the vast majority of people, I just want to make it clear that this is what we're talking about. We're addressing, which is a large percentage of people who have limited resources and time to devote to this.
Yeah. Without question, I have a very tight schedule. I've got 4 kids. My kids have activities between working, doing all of this stuff and getting my kids to all the places they need to be at, making sure that they have the strong physical foundation. My youngest son just started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Well, that's at minimum 3 days a week. And I have to drive him there and then come pick him up again. And even if it's only 15 minutes each direction, 15 there, 15 back, 15 there, 15 back, that's an hour out of my day that I have to dedicate to just transporting that child to one place. That doesn't include taking my daughter to school. That doesn't include if, God forbid, I should want to do something fun.
Yeah.
There is not a lot of time in a given day and the demands of life seem to keep mounting.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's not an excuse in the sense that if you've got a couple of days, you can still make a dent.
Ultimately, yes.
Okay.
And not even, I hate to even use the word excuse. If that's your reality and what you have to give right now is 1 or 2 days per week, that is more than enough time to move the needle with your health and your performance, really.
Okay.
And so I think ultimately the sentiment that comes out of this initial discussion is something we always say anytime exercise comes up, or anytime that we talk about it with anybody.
Yeah.
It's always the idea that something is always going to be better than nothing. And that I mean, applies universally, whether you want to read more, or you want to, make better decisions at the grocery store, or cook your own food more, or sleep more, whatever the case. There's always there, as far as habit building goes and all that sort of thing, starting somewhere is always what's most important. I think this just crystallizes that a little better. We can give some recommendations. We can give some people some reassurance as to having an abnormal structure around exercise is okay. So the question we seek to answer: can weekend warrior types benefit from exercise as much as those with a more evenly distributed pattern of physical activity?
Okay. And there's some studies about this. That's what we're getting into?
There are. And at the outset with those studies, from my understanding, most of them point to the direction, like we said, something is better than nothing. If it's 2 days in a row, if it's a 1 3-hour day of exercise,
right?
Just the fact that you're doing the work is ultimately what's most important.
Right. Because the recommendation is 150 minutes a week.
Yes.
So if you try and cram all that in, that's what we're talking about.
Pretty much.
Okay. All right.
Pretty much.